one of my last videos, we talked about the Buffalo Sabres and one of their many questionable decisions. Specifically, Michael Pekka. He was their captain, a Selke winner, a back-to-back 20-goal scorer, and how they would lowball their captain to the extent where he would sit out an entire season out of frustration. And with the current players such as Mike Pedersen and Hughes still not signed, Jimbo, you know what? I don't want to talk about it. So in today's video, we're going to go over some of the most intense contract negotiations in NHL history. And with that being said, a lot of people wanted to know about my dog. Ask and you shall receive. This is Bud. He's a golden retriever and a good boy. What's that? He said he has a gun. And if you don't press subscribe. Back in 1992, we would see the introduction of the newest NHL franchise, the Ottawa Senators. Because unlike today's expansion rules, where teams can only protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or 8 skaters total and 1 goalie, in 1992, NHL teams could protect, and get this, 14 skaters and 2 goalies. Like, what? How could any expansion team form anything resembling a competitive roster? Because that's the thing, they didn't. Which is why expansion teams back in the day were terrible. Which led the Senators in having, and get this, a 10-70-4 record. Brutal. However, at least Ottawa got a nice little consolation prize, as they would get the number 2 pick in the 1992 draft, which they would use to draft Alexei Yashin, a 6'4" power center with tremendous upside.
Tips it ahead, Chorsky coming in, here's Yashin, shoots, scores!
And well, after spending an extra season in the then KHL, Yashin would develop into Ottawa's franchise player. 30 goals, 79 points in his first season. He would carry Ottawa to their first playoff berth. In 1998, he would be named captain on top of a monster 94-point campaign. Except, this is where everything would come crashing down. In the 1999 offseason, Yashin, who was in the final year of his deal that paid him $3.6 million, demanded that the Senators ripped up their current contract and give him a premature pay raise. Now, Yashin was a stud of a player, but that is just absurd. Now hear me out, maybe just wait 1 year and then get your payday. He was so adamant that he told the Ottawa Senators that if they don't give him a new contract, that he will refuse to play. And well, so he did, as he refused to report to camp, and in doing so, the Senators would suspend their captain in Yashin for the entire 99-2000 season. Wild.
Really good. We're here today to announce that that the Senators have suspended Alexei Yashin without pay, and at this time has no real reason to expect that he'll report.
But here's the thing, Yashin's rationale was, well, I kind of have a loophole here, because if I don't play this season, I'll be a free agent next year, and I can leave Ottawa anyways. However, the Senators and the NHL thought otherwise, and stated, because you didn't fulfill your final contract year, you will not be a free agent until you do so. And as a result, the NHL would sue Yashin for not playing his final contract year, and the Senators would also sue Yashin because they lost ticket revenue without his presence. And well, not only would Yashin lose and have to awkwardly play his final year back in Ottawa on a team he captained and literally just abandoned, but he would also have to pay Ottawa $7 million in lost revenue, on top of missing an entire year of his prime due to being suspended. And after coming back and playing well, the Sens would trade him in a huge blockbuster deal, as they would land Zdeno Chara and Jason Spezza, not bad. And as for the Islanders, they would give Yashin the largest contract in NHL history, a deal worth $64 million over 10 years, which was massive back in the early 2000s. However, it also turned out to be one of the worst contracts in NHL history. As Yashin would regress, the Islanders would buy him out, and Yashin would just pack his bags and leave to Russia in year 4 of his 10-year contract. Crazy. And Yashin would also make a brand new NHL rule, as his contract holdout set a precedent that all players must play their final contract year for it to actually expire. And even though Yashin thought he found a loophole, his quote-unquote loophole costed him millions. When a player decides to commit to a contract holdout, yes, it may end up making them a few extra zeros on each paycheck, But what needs to be emphasized is how detrimental it can be to a team's morale and a player's development. Case in point, William Nylander, who has the record for the longest holdout in the salary cap era, as he would miss 28 games in an intense, dramatic, all you would see on the news for months was this negotiation. And because Nylander missed training camp and he was just out of sync with his team, he would come back and put up 4 points in the first 20 games on a new $7 million contract. Ouch. Which resulted in everyone just roasting him alive. Now, funny enough, Nylander's contract actually looks great today. And again, Nylander missed 28 games. And all I saw was Dubas's face in this negotiation every time I went on Twitter. Now, on the flip side, what if you missed nearly 2 entire years in 150 games due to a holdout? Well, this was the case for Nikolai Khabibulin, because after taking over the net in the inaugural season of the Phoenix Coyotes, Khabibulin slowly developed into a legitimate #1 starter. On top of the fact that he was a phenomenal playoff performer. The man was clutch.
Goes backhand. Oh! What a leg save by Khabibulin!
And carried the Coyotes in numerous occasions. Which is why he also played north of 70 games per season, which is absurd considering how reliant teams are today on a 2-goalie tandem. And ladies and gentlemen, that was a problem. Khabibulin felt like if he was going to play 70 games a season, which caused major fatigue, especially when you tack on playoff games, he deserves more money. As he was making $1.25 million, the Coyotes would offer him $3 million over 3 years, when he wanted $4 million over 5 years. And at this point, he was so fed up and just felt so disrespected that Khabibulin would set an NHL record, as not only did he sit out the entire 1999-2000 NHL season, but he sat out the entire 01-02 season. Well, not quite, as he would be traded in the final games of the season to Tampa, where he would play 2 games. However, even though Khabibulin would set a record for sitting out nearly 2 years in a contract holdout, Khabibulin would prove that he was worth every dime, as he took over the net in Tampa and was monumental in the 2004 Cup run. Ken Dryden, a pioneer of the game and one of the greatest goalies in NHL history. I mean, within his first 2 years with the Montreal Canadiens, Dryden took home a Calder, a Vezina, and 2 Stanley Cups. Absurd. And that's the thing. Dryden at the age of 25 was the best goalie in the NHL. Yet, he was not getting paid like he was the best goalie in the NHL. Thus, he would demand a new contract or else he would not report to the team. And well, Montreal was basically like, okay, then what are you gonna do? So, Montreal would not oblige, and Dryden would take off an entire year. But, here's the thing. Dryden in that time would go back to school and finish his law degree, get a job in a lawyer firm, and play in another hockey league where he played defense. Dryden was basically like, I don't need you. I can make my money in other ways. Absurd. After the Canadiens would see a steep drop off in net, Dryden would get his new contract and join the team the next year, where he would go on to winning 4 more Stanley Cups and 4 more Vezinas. Legend. Ryan O'Reilly. And I'm not even joking. This one includes the most idiotic, bonehead deals I have ever seen. Because after being drafted 2nd overall in 2009, Ryan O'Reilly quickly developed into one of the best up-and-coming two-way stars in the game. And with that, he demanded the bag, as he was firm at the $5 million AAV mark. However, the Avs were firm at $3.5 million. And considering that O'Reilly was making $4 million during the lockout in the KHL, my man was not taking a pay cut to play in the NHL. Thus, he would sit out the first 2 months of the season, with both sides not budging, until the Calgary Flames would offer sheet O'Reilly on a 2-year, $10 million deal, meaning they would have to give up a 1st and 3rd round pick. And so obviously Colorado would cave in and match the offer, and O'Reilly would go on to be a stud. However, this is the idiotic part. Calgary had the balls to offer sheet O'Reilly. However, the Flames didn't even take into account that they had a full roster, meaning O'Reilly would have had to clear waivers, also meaning that any team could take him for nothing. And Calgary would have lost a 1st and 3rd round pick for nothing. Like, it makes absolutely no sense and is one of the biggest contract mess ups I've ever seen.